Hey, Jeff Lerner here, and today we are talking about how books can make you money. Look, it's really simple. See, there's a book and there's money. Like seriously, see this book right here? The Prosperity Secrets of the Ages. It's so freaking sick. You literally read this book and like just fat stacks of money just start falling out of your life is just cash fall. I'm totally kidding. That's not how it works at all. I literally don't even know where I got this book, and I definitely have never read it, but I've read other books, and other books are a huge part of the reason why I have money to wave in your face. The reality is books will change your life. Books will change your mind. Books are one of the only things, the only tools you can use that doesn't really cost anything. It's a lot cheaper than therapy that can actually re-engineer the way your brain works. Think about the power of that and ask yourself, why am I staring at screens all the time? Why am I letting media and entertainment just sort of wash over me and saturate me? Why am I spending all this time on video games? I could be literally rewiring my brain around whatever I want in this world based on intentionally reading different books or reading books at all. That's the power. That's frankly, what happened for me. I've lived certainly a 1%, probably 1% of 1% life in the last 10, 12 years since my mind changed, since I started doing different things. And it comes down to books. So I want to share with you today some books that have really impacted me that I'm confident can really, really impact you as well. Obviously, it's not as simple as just reading and having money fall out. But what happens is, maybe you've never heard this, be, do, have. Have you ever heard be, do, have? Be, do, and it's frankly, it's kind of a cheesy thing. Like honestly, if you've ever been like a MLM, if you've ever been to like an Amway convention or Herbalife convention or something, I'm at risk of like setting off a flag because you might have seen like the be, do, have, banner or something. But it's actually a really profound truth that most of us start with, what do I want to have? I want to have certain things. But the reality is, and we say, if I have certain things, then I'll do all these different things and then I'll be so different. My life will be so different. But that's not actually how it works. The reality is you got to be the person, and then you'll naturally do the things. If you were the person that naturally did all those things that you resist doing and you don't do and you procrastinate and you stall and you hem and haw and you make excuses or you sell yourself short or you make sure that you're working really hard when people are looking, but then when they aren't, you kind of like take the edge off. You know what I mean? We all know it. We all know it. It's in there. It's in every single one of us. It's actually called shame. Go look up John Bradshaw. There's worlds of information about how you can process through that stuff. But the fact is, most of us that don't have the life we want is because we aren't yet the person. We aren't being the person that'll just naturally do the things, that'll lead to the results that we want, that'll lead to having the things that we want to have. And again, cheaper than therapy. The number one thing that we can do in this world is read. If there's something that happens when your brain has to decode the symbols that are words. It's different than what happens when we get the visual imagery already created for us through games or movies or even like comic books. There's something different that happens in the brain when your mind has to deconstruct the little word pictures, the symbols that is language, and create the images and comprehend and process the ideas without images already supplied, because the human subconscious thinks in pictures. So when the pictures are already given to you through the media, through movies and such, there's no engagement of the subconscious. The subconscious is just receiving the images. But when you read words and you convert them into images, that's a conscious, like a frontal lobe connection to subconscious mind. That's a communication process that happens in the mind that actually changes you cognitively. You may never have thought about it this way, but you are like crippling yourself if you're not reading. And read physical books. So I want to share with you some books that have completely transformed my life. All right. So when I was like early 20s, I was a musician. I was really poor, but I was like doing the creative thing and playing jazz and being artsy and sort of drifting in life. I read a book called The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. Now, as soon as you say Ayn Rand, like a lot of times nowadays, it becomes like a political thing because some people, the Libertarian Party is really like Ayn Rand, like Rand Paul is named after Ayn Rand. But that's not what it was back then. It was literally just a story about human potential and about how humans are literally the fountainhead, the wellspring, via their creative energy of what's great and wonderful and magnificent in this world. And then a lot of people say, no, that's like an anti-God, and they make it a religious thing, and say she was an atheist and whatever. I don't know what she believed. I don't care. It doesn't matter if man creates his own beauty or God created man to be able to create beauty as a manifestation of God. Like, that part of the argument is separate. The point is, what are human beings capable of? And that book changed my life. It made me realize, I resonated with that book in a way where it was like, this is me. This is the best version of me. I am Howard Rourke, only I haven't found my calling yet. I haven't found my idiom. In the book, Howard Rourke was an architect. But, for me, I knew I needed to find my own thing. But I recognized what I was capable of and also how hard it was going to be. The book does a great job. And she has another book called Atlas Shrugged that probably does it to an even greater degree, illustrates the depth of the struggle. But that's more like grand and sweeping in its themes. The Fountainhead actually felt to me more like personal, more about the inner personal struggle. I deeply found myself in that character of Howard Rourke. Another book that really, really impacted me is called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, D-U-H-I-G-G, The Power of Habit. It taught me about these things called keystone habits. And keystone habits are, habits that are sort of like primary, almost primal, like precursor habits that have a ripple effect into how you do everything. You may have heard the saying, how you do one thing is how you do everything. Well, that's especially true with keystone habits, where when you can discipline yourself to do very specific things at a really excellent level, it'll cascade through your whole life. And I learned that, and it was learning that helped me understand, and it was processing that book in the context of my own life that helped me realize, hey, I have keystone habits, and there's certain things that when I do them well, I can chart the course of my life, even my childhood, and say, when I'm doing these things well, the rest of my life is better too, because it's the version of me that I am. It's the be, do, have. It's who am I being when I'm doing those things well, because the person that I'm being when I'm doing those things well is a person that does everything better. For me, my number one keystone habit is fitness. It's fitness and getting up early in the morning, and they go together. If I get my ass out of bed early, like painfully early enough that most people go, oh dude, that's early, I would never do that. It's almost like a competitive thing. Like, I'm gonna get up in an hour that a lot of people think is ridiculous, and I'm gonna go work harder before they're even out of bed than they're gonna all day. With their entire waking hours, I'm gonna do more physical work, pushing myself in terms of fitness by 6 a.m. than most people are gonna do when they don't even roll out of bed till 6 a.m. and they're gonna do all day. It's not about competition. It's not about being better than other people. It's just, for me, I've figured out that's a keystone habit. It's a performance indicator for my whole life. I never would have had the language to be able to describe and internalize that reality of my life without reading the damn book, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Another book, Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt. I had a sense in my mid-20s, even though I was a musician who was, a creative and, not, I guess I was a right-brained person, not living in economics and money and finance. But even as a jazz piano major, I always had this sense. I actually minored in finance while I majored in jazz piano. I had this sense that money was a really, really important thing. And that being naive and negligent about money I would pay the price for that. It wasn't going to hurt anyone else if I was ignorant about money. I was going to pay the price for that. And so I wanted to really learn. I started learning about the Austrian School of Economics. I read Ludwig von Mises. And ultimately, the most impactful book specifically was Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt. Hazlett. Now, here's the thing. You read this book and you're like, this is boring. This feels like school. I remember feeling, this is boring. This feels like school. And I said, no, it feels like school because I've associated reading a book like this with being in school. But when I went back and said, okay, what does this book actually teach me about human beings? Because I'm a human being, and economics, which is the study, and this is actually how Henry Hazlitt defines economics in that book, which I haven't read this book in over 10 years, but the way he defined economics has impacted me so profoundly that I take an economics-based approach to everything I do in business and life now because of this book. And he talks about, it's about how to distribute and manage resources in the way that does the greatest amount of good for the greatest number of people. That's actually the study of economics. It's a social science. It's not a business science. It's about helping. It's a humanitarian science in that sense, if it's done properly. So reading that book, I learned a lot about how human beings are, how their behavioral economics, how their behavior is predictable in relationship to resources and scarcity versus abundance. And it impact, I won't try to relive every lesson I learned from that book, but it impacted me mightily. As a musician, it was part of the reason that I ended up getting out of being a musician. It was part of many choices that I make. It was part of, decisions that I made later in life to be more efficient with my own resources, even to, stand up for myself in relationships and be bold in life and take chances and all kinds of things that it informed. I promise I never would have got any of that influence from a TV show. It had to be a book. That book, Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt. Another book that was earth-shattering for me in a really great way is a book called Influence by Robert Cialdini. If you follow any of my stuff online, probably 1 out of every 10 videos or blogs or anything that I do, I manage to reference back to Influence by Robert Cialdini. You want to know why you're not getting what you want in this world? You want to know why you don't have the impact on people or the influence, or you don't get your way, or people don't seem to line up with your perspective? Read the book Influence. Understand the 6 principles of persuasion. That book has probably made me $20 million in the last 10 years since I first read it. I'm not giving it credit for everything I've earned. I'm giving it credit for a good chunk of what I've earned. That one book, because I understand why people do the things that they do. And in terms of building a business, I understand why people buy the things that they buy. And it doesn't, it's not a decoder ring to manipulate and trick people. It's an insight tool to understand people so that you can serve them and take care of them better so that they'll want to do business with you, or they'll want to engage in any kind of exchange with you. It works. I use the principles of influence with my kids. I use them with my wife. Again, not in like a Machiavellian puppet master control kind of way, which, by the way, I say the term Machiavellian. Who really knows what that means? People that have read The Prince. People that have actually read the damn book. We use the term all the time, but yet a small percentage of people actually really, really deeply understand what the term even means. But anyway, that's not how I mean influence. And when you read the book, you understand what I do mean by influence. It's learning how to lead by service in a way that aligns with the natural drivers of human personality. Read the book, your eyes will open to things you'll literally see in Technicolor when before you were seeing in black and white. And there's no way I can communicate that experience to you except to say, just read the book. Okay, so that's probably enough of me ranting about books and sharing my life experience in relationship to books. But the reality is, statistically, I know this. Most people watching don't read books. In fact, 24% of you watching this video haven't read a single book in the last 5 years. And I mean a single page. Literally have not done this and this for even a second in 5 years. Come on. The average person watching this, the average person across I think it was a North American study, 17 minutes a day of any form of reading, physical or digital, reading on a screen, counting that too, 17 minutes a day. We watch videos for hours. Look up the statistics on YouTube. We are captivated and hypnotized by media that supplies our subconscious the imagery so that we don't have to process it. But for some reason, 17 minutes a day, we hit the wall when it comes to actually turning word pictures into visual images in our own mind, which is actually what rewires the brain in a positive way. I hope this isn't to criticize anybody. This is it. This is how the world is. I'm here to challenge and say, we can do better. Come on, guys. Get together with me. Let's read some books because it'll change the world, all right? Thanks for your time. I'll catch you on the next video. And if you like this kind of stuff, if you like this guy ranting at you about how to be more awesome in life, subscribe to my channel. And I got lots more to come.